The terrifying truth about billion-dollar startup success is that the winning ideas, they rarely start as these strokes of genius.
Not at all.
They're often messy, they can be really boring, and they're, frequently ignored by everyone who's chasing the next shiny object.
That's exactly right. The core insight we get from looking at companies like Airbnb or Stripe isn't about finding some perfect, pristine idea. It's about systematically avoiding the big pitfalls. Specifically that trap of building a solution for a problem that doesn't really exist.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are doing a comprehensive deep dive into sources based on Y Combinator's analysis of startup viability. This guide, it's been refined over years of funding thousands of companies.
Yeah.
It's essentially a shortcut for you to understand why founders fail and, maybe more importantly, how the successful ones actually win.
Our mission today is to unpack the hard, kind of counterintuitive truths behind idea validation. We're going deep on the 10-question framework that YC partners themselves use to evaluate if an idea is viable.
And the goal is simple.
Yeah, the goal is to dramatically increase your chances of choosing the right path from day one.
So we've got a clear roadmap. We'll first dissect the 4 common cognitive traps that kill promising ideas before they even get started.
Right.
Then we'll move into those 10 critical questions, the litmus test for whether you should dedicate the next decade of your life to something.
And then the really fun part, we'll look at 3 surprising bad signs that are actually golden opportunities.
Okay, let's unpack this before we can even really define what a good idea looks like.
Yeah.
We have to stop making these 4 specific mistakes that just poison the well.
The first, and I think it's possibly the most dangerous, is what YC calls SISP.
SSP.
Solution in search of a problem. And
Okay.
it's completely backward thinking. A founder gets excited about a new technology.
Of AI or...
Maybe AI, maybe a complex new blockchain protocol or some no-code tool, and then they try to find something, anything to apply it to.
And the result almost every time is a product that is technically elegant, but it completely fails that one fundamental test.
Will customers actually pay for this?
Exactly. It looks cool, but there's just no urgent customer pull.
Playing Grid is the perfect corrective story here. The founder, Tracy Young, she didn't start by asking, hey, what can we do with this new iPad?
Right.
She started with the acute daily pain points she knew from the construction world. Crews were literally drowning in these massive, outdated paper blueprints.
She saw the pain first. I mean, those documents were so huge and so hard to manage that they led to multi-million-dollar errors. The iPad just happened to be the most efficient tool for that urgent problem.
And the principle is so clear. Fall in love with the problem, not the solution. So why does leading with the solution almost always lead to failure?
Because customers, they only pay to solve real painful problems, not for cool tech gimmicks. That brings us to trap number 2, the tar pit. These are idea categories that look so deceptively promising. Everyone thinks they need them, but they have these hidden structural obstacles that just lead to repeated failure.
Oh, yeah. Think about things like the next great social coordination app. Or trying to build a better email client. They seem easy enough to build, but they're built on these huge obstacles, like the massive network effects you need for a social app, or just user behavior that refuses to change.
And the obstacles are almost never technical. It's about human inertia.
Yeah.
High switching costs. People might complain about group chats for planning, but the convenience is just... it's good enough.
The sources suggest a really great antidote for this. Just Google your idea plus failed startup. Right. You have to really understand why all the previous attempts died. Was the problem engineering, or was it just the unyielding nature of how people behave?
I still wrestle with prompt drift myself. The tendency for users to lose focus when they're using a new tool. And it just shows how easy it is to fixate on the tool instead of the essential, unchanging problem the customer actually has.
That intimate understanding is it's vital. So what's the single most important thing founders need to find when they're researching those failures?
They have to find out if the obstacle was solvable engineering or if it was just deeply ingrained, unchanging user behavior. Okay, moving to trap 3, we get the Goldilocks Paradox.
The 2 extremes.
The 2 extremes that paralyze founders. On one side, you have the builder who just jumps in, codes for 6 months, and never talks to a customer.
And on the other, you have the analyzer who's waiting for this theoretically perfect idea, just paralyzed by every tiny flaw they see.
The optimal strategy is that middle path.
Yeah.
You shouldn't treat an idea like an irreversible life commitment.
Yeah.
You should treat it as a high-quality starting point that needs market feedback. Fivetran, which is now a multi-billion-dollar data company, is a perfect example. They pivoted multiple times in their early years.
But they stayed within that larger data tool space. They were always learning and adjusting.
They were constantly executing and iterating, not just waiting for the perfect moment. So how can a founder know if they're being too analytical, if they're getting paralyzed?
Well, if you're waiting for an idea that has zero flaws on paper, you are just never going to start. The market is the only thing that provides real validation.
And the fourth trap.
Yeah.
This one is all about self-awareness, the good idea for someone else problem. Or, a lack of founder market fit.
Right. An idea can be objectively perfect, huge market, acute pain point. But if it's wrong for you, if you don't have that unique insight, you will fail to execute.
Founder market fit means having a distinct personal insight or direct experience that other people just don't have. The playing grid example is perfect again. Tracy Young understood construction pain. Her co-founder was an iPad expert as a perfect match.
Yeah, and contrast that with a team of, say, top-tier Stanford CS grads. They might have better coding skills, sure, but if they've never set foot on a construction site, they lack that visceral understanding of the customer's daily reality. They won't know the nuances of the sales cycle or all those hidden frustrations.
That intimate personal insight is the key differentiator, especially early on. So why is a founder's unique experience so often more important than just having superior code?
Because personal insight is essential to truly understand the customer's daily reality, how they think, and most importantly, how to sell to them.
Okay, so we've learned what to avoid. This is where it gets really interesting. Let's switch gears and actively evaluate opportunities using that YC 10-question framework. This is the model that separates strong starting points from, well, time sinks.
And question 1 just reinforces what we were talking about, founder market fit. Beyond just general industry knowledge, what unique, non-obvious insight do you actually possess? The founders of Brex, the corporate card company for startups, are a great case study. They had built a payments company in Brazil before. They understood the incredibly complex back end of payments and the specific needs of startup customers. They knew the cane inside and out.
Question 2, how big is the market? Now, the ultimate goal is billion-dollar potential. But the sources stress this important nuance. You should probably beware of markets that are too big.
Right, the ones already dominated by titans like Google or Facebook.
Exactly.
What's fascinating here is that the best opportunities are often these mid-sized, currently underserved markets, maybe in the $100 to $500 million range. They have room to grow exponentially without attracting the big guys right away.
And you have to factor in that potential growth. I mean, the Coinbase example from 2012 shows that while the crypto market was minuscule back then, the argument for exponential growth just completely overrode the initial skepticism about its current size.
Whoa. Imagine having to argue for scaling to 1 billion queries in a market that barely even registers. That's why you have to look for that potential curve.
Question 3 focuses on urgency. How acute is the problem? This is really the difference between a nice-to-have and hair on fire.
And the test is simple. Would customers pay for a partial, buggy, imperfect solution today?
If they're willing to deal with the pain of an incomplete solution, you know the problem is absolutely essential. Before Brex, for example, venture-backed startups often literally couldn't get corporate credit cards.
Right, because they had no credit history.
That was a missing piece of infrastructure, not just a marginally better app.
Question 4 is delightfully counterintuitive. Do you have competition?
Yeah, this one is great. Most people think competition is a killer, but YC says it's often a strong positive signal. It validates that there's market demand.
Because if nobody else is trying to solve the problem, maybe the problem isn't real, or maybe the solution is just impossible.
Dropbox is the classic example here. They entered a market with about 20 existing cloud storage competitors. But they won because they were demonstrably 10 times better in file syncing and user experience. Competition forces you to be aggressive.
Okay, so let's link questions 5 and 8 together to focus on the founder's resilience, personal desire, and longevity.
Question 5 asks, simply, do you want this? Do people you know want this? DoorDash started because the founders genuinely wanted delivery from local restaurants that didn't offer it. They were just solving their own problem.
And question 8 is all about the grit you need for the long haul. Is the idea tolerable enough that you won't quit when it gets really hard?
Right.
I mean, most people aren't passionate about tax forms or compliance, but Josh Reeves of Gusto was passionate about building a successful company that helps small businesses manage those boring tasks. Passion often follows success, not the other way around.
Questions 6 and 7 cover timing and validation. Great ideas ride these waves of recent change, and the waves come in three flavors. Technology, like GPT-3, enabling all these new AI tools.
New regulation, like legal cannabis markets, or behavior shifts, like remote work making Zoom a necessity.
Checkr, the background checking platform, succeeded because the rise of the gig economy created this massive new demand for instant background checks that the legacy providers just couldn't deliver. The timing was everything.
And question slid in is a reminder that if you are inventing a new business model, you should validate it. Are there successful examples of the model working somewhere else? Rappi applied the DoorDash model to Latin America. It's smart to prove the model works and then find a new market that desperately needs it.
Finally, questions 9 and 10 cover scalability and idea space.
Scalability asks, does the business model allow for infinite software-style growth, or does it grow slowly by adding consultants or physical stuff? VC funding really only flows to those infinitely scalable models.
The idea space itself matters. High hit rate spaces like B2B SaaS, fintech infrastructure, and developer tools just have better statistical odds. Fivetran, again, they pivoted multiple times, but they stayed securely in that data tool space, which is a known area of high value.
So if competition is good, should you just always enter a crowded field?
Yes, but only if you can clearly identify how your solution is going to be demonstrably 10 times better than the existing options, not just 10% better. Mid-roll sponsor read.
So if we connect this whole framework to the bigger picture, we get to Jared Friedman's amazing counterintuitive insight. The very things that look like major flaws to the average person are often exactly what repel competition and create these massive, durable opportunities.
And the first of these positive signals is that it's hard to get started, which Paul Graham famously calls Schlep Blindness.
Yes.
This is that natural human tendency to avoid messy, boring, or uncomfortable work, even if the eventual payoff is huge.
Stripe is the textbook case of Schlep Blindness. Everyone knew online payments were awful clunky APIs, terrible documentation, high fraud rates.
Always a nightmare.
A total nightmare. But almost no one tried to fix it because the work was so tedious. Wrestling with ancient financial infrastructure, dealing with complex compliance, navigating all these banking regulations.
That work was deeply unsexy. It was repetitive and often really stressful. But because Patrick and John Collison were just willing to do the hard schlep work that everyone else avoided, they built a massive business with surprisingly little early competition.
The sheer pain and difficulty of the problem itself became their defense.
It was the moat.
Exactly. Signal number 2 is when the market looks boring. We call this the gusto principle. Founders, being human, they flock to glamorous ideas, consumer social, anything related to metaverse, exciting AI interfaces.
Meanwhile, these huge, essential, painful markets like payroll, insurance, construction tools, or specialized veterinary supply like VetCove, they're just ignored.
Right. Gusto, which does payroll and HR software, won because the market was massive, the incumbents like ADP were terrible, and customers were just desperate for a modern experience.
But payroll isn't glamorous, so founders avoided it. And this pattern repeats across all kinds of vertical software. These ideas rarely make headlines on Twitter, and that lack of glamour is precisely their strength.
And signal number 3 is the Dropbox Paradox. Competitors already exist.
We just discussed this in the framework, but it really bears repeating. Conventional wisdom says to avoid crowded markets, but reality shows that competition proves demand exists.
When Dropbox launched, 20 cloud storage tools already existed. That didn't kill them. It validated that people needed file syncing.
So Dropbox's job wasn't to be first. It was just to build something meaningfully, demonstrably better.
Faster syncing, a cleaner user experience, a better pricing model.
Right. Markets with zero competitors often mean the problem isn't real or the solution you're thinking of is just impossible. So your job, if you see competition, is to understand exactly why existing solutions aren't good enough and then solve that gap 10 times better.
So if we look at those 3 signals, what's the biggest underlying benefit of tackling a truly boring market?
If a big, painful market is structurally ignored by most ambitious founders, it's an opportunity hiding in plain sight. So what does all of this mean for you as a founder or a potential founder? The core lesson from the YC framework isn't having the perfect idea on day one.
No.
It's about being positioned in a fertile space, recognizing real problems, even the messy, boring ones, and then just executing quickly.
Stripe, Airbnb, DoorDash, they all succeeded because they executed aggressively in spaces where a real acute problem existed, and they were willing to do that hard, tedious schlep work that repelled everyone else.
So if your idea passes the sniff test with the 4 traps and the 10 questions, you need to stop analyzing.
Please stop analyzing.
Start building a minimal version. The market is going to teach you more in 1 month of real execution than any framework can in 6 months of just thinking about it.
And finally, the guide suggests that if you don't have an idea yet, you shouldn't just wait for a lightning bolt of inspiration. There are systematic ways to actually force inspiration.
That brings us to our provocative closing thought. If you aren't waiting for that sudden flash of genius, what kind of structured recipes could you use right now to systematically generate a billion-dollar problem?